My mission: steal tech from a paranoid CEO. Our cover required us to show love. Then I found his real employer. Rain lashed against the grimy windowpane of the derelict apartment, mirroring the storm brewing inside Eva Rostova. Codenamed Wraith, she lived up to the moniker, a near-invisible specter observing her prey through high-powered optics. Her target: Desmond Cross, the reclusive paranoid CEO of Neurotech. His penthouse office across the rain-slicked city canyon glowed like a forbidden jewel box. Eva adjusted the focus, her movements precise, economical. Every line of her body spoke of controlled tension, honed by years of ex-military intelligence and the crushing weight of a past-op failure that haunted her. Failure meant lives lost. Success here, securing Project Chimera, was her redemption. The neural implant technology cross-guarded with fanatical secrecy wasn't just revolutionary medicine. Its potential for covert emotional manipulation was a weapon of terrifying power. Eva trusted systems, protocols, the cold logic of the mission. People were variables, liabilities. 20 blocks away, perched on the rain-slicked fire escape of an equally nondescript building, Liam Shaw grinned. Water plastered dark hair to his forehead, but the thrill of the hunt warmed him. Codenamed Chameleon, he blended into shadows and personas with equal ease. Through his own scope, he watched Cross pace his office. Liam worked for Viridian Dynamics, Aegis Solutions' fiercest rival in the lucrative, cutthroat world of corporate espionage. His motivation was simpler, more desperate: a mountain of debt from his sister's relentless medical bills and the addictive rush of the con. Boxes suffocated him, improvisation was his oxygen. He saw Cross's security not as an impenetrable fortress, but as a complex puzzle waiting to be picked. Chimera represented freedom, financial freedom at least. He cracked his knuckles, a silent promise to the storm. The sterile conference room at a neutral safe house hummed with tension thicker than the city smog. Eva sat ramrod straight, reviewing mission parameters on a tablet. Across the polished table, Liam slouched, idly spinning a stylus. Their handlers, stone-faced representatives from Aegis and Viridian, stood like grim sentinels. "Problem," the Aegis handler stated, projecting a satellite image onto the wall. "Cross is hosting his exclusive innovation retreat. Isolated compound, fortified island, impenetrable to singles. Invite only for elite couples." Liam whistled. "Romantic. What's the play? Seduce the security chief?" "Solution," the Viridian handler cut in, ignoring the jab. "We've reached a pragmatic understanding." Eva's head snapped up, her icy blue eyes narrowing. Liam stopped spinning the stylus. "Joint operation, combined resources. You two," the handler gestured between them, "will infiltrate as Elena and Leo Vance. Tech investment power couple. Your documented rivalry," he added, a flicker of distaste in his voice, "sells the passionate dynamic." Eva's stomach clenched. Partner with him? The charming, unpredictable thief whose file screamed liability? "Operational parameters?" she asked, her voice clipped. "Full cooperation until Chimera is secured," the Aegis handler said. "Then, extraction is a free-for-all. Winner takes the prize back to their agency." Mutual distrust crackled in the air. Liam smirked, a challenge in his hazel eyes. "Play house with the Ice Queen? Sounds cozy." Eva met his gaze, her expression unreadable granite. "Just don't slow me down, Chameleon." The couple training was a special kind of hell. A bland safe-house living room became their stage. An acting coach drilled them on fabricated histories. Elena Vance, heiress to a Baltic tech fortune. Leo Vance, self-made AI prodigy. They practiced entwining arms, the brush of fingers, the casual intimacy expected of a wealthy, connected pair. Eva approached it like a tactical exercise. Elena prefers Riesling to Chardonnay. Leo has a documented allergy to shellfish. Desmond Cross admires aggressive market strategies. Emphasize Leo's fictional acquisition of Neuralink in 2023. Her briefing was precise, exhaustive. Liam rolled his eyes, draping an arm over her stiff shoulders. "Relax, Wraith. It's a performance, not a military parade." Leo would squeeze Elena's shoulder here, "Not like you're adjusting a rifle sling." He demonstrated, his touch surprisingly light but deliberate. Eva flinched minutely. And he'd whisper something wicked in her ear when Garrick walks by. He leaned in, his breath warm against her cheek. Bet the head of security polishes his bald spot with military-grade wax." Eva pulled away, a flush creeping up her neck. She willed away. "Immaturity gets agents killed, Shaw. Stick to the profile." But the forced proximity was a live wire. His effortless charm grated against her rigid control, yet his keen observation of human behavior was undeniable. He saw nuances she catalogued only as data points. Arrival at the airy, Desmond Cross's island compound felt like stepping onto the set of a dystopian film. Reached only by a private, heavily scanned hydrofoil, the structure rose from the cliffs like shards of obsidian glass, reflecting the moody sea and sky. Security was omnipresent yet invisible. Retinal scanners at the dock, discrete panels hinting at pressure sensors lining the minimalist walkways, the faint hum of aerial drones patrolling the perimeter. It was less a retreat, more a gilded cage. Desmond Cross greeted the arriving couples on a vast, wind-swept terrace. Tall, gaunt, with eyes that missed nothing, he radiated an unsettling blend of brilliance and profound detachment. His handshake was cool, brief. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Vance. Your work in neurointegration interfaces is provocative." His gaze lingered, assessing. Beside him stood Garrick. If Cross was a scalpel, Garrick was a battering ram. Ex-Special Forces, his shaved head, thick neck, and watchful eyes scanned the new arrivals with palpable suspicion. He gave a curt nod, his presence a constant, silent threat. Eva, as Elena, offered a perfectly calibrated smile. "Desmond, the compound is breathtaking, a testament to Neurotech's vision." Her voice was warm, confident. Liam, as Leo, flashed a dazzling grin, clapping Cross lightly on the shoulder. "Call me Leo, this place is insane. Can't wait to see the tech playground." He played the enthusiastic, slightly brash innovator perfectly. Garrick's eyes tracked the casual contact, his expression impassive. The retreat was a masterclass in psychological pressure disguised as luxury. Team-building exercises involved complex logic puzzles requiring seamless couple coordination. Intimate dinners meant navigating conversational minefields about market trends and ethical boundaries under Cross's penetrating gaze and Garrick's silent scrutiny. During a puzzle challenge, aligning light beams through a maze of mirrors, Eva meticulously calculated angles. "Mirror C needs a 32-degree adjustment," she hissed. "Too slow," Liam murmured back, flashing a charming smile at a watching Garrick. He nudged a mirror roughly. "Try vibing with it, darling. Like this." The beam deflected wildly, but ricocheted perfectly onto the target sensor. Eva stared, stunned. Dumb luck? Or unnerving instinct? "Leo Vance, everyone," Cross announced dryly to polite laughter. "Intuition over intellect, fascinating." Later, during a late-night reconnaissance attempt near a restricted service corridor, Eva froze as a drone's soft whir suddenly intensified. Before she could react, Liam's arm was around her waist, pulling her close against the shadowed wall. He dipped his head, his lips brushing her temple in a convincingly intimate gesture. "Garrick's patrol," he breathed, his voice low and urgent, completely different from Leo's brashness. "Look at me. Laugh. Like I just said something filthy." Eva's heart hammered against her ribs, a confusing mix of adrenaline and something else. She forced a low, throaty chuckle, tilting her head towards him, her eyes meeting his. In that charged moment of shared danger, the act felt terrifyingly real. The drone paused, its sensor sweeping over them, then moved on. Garrick's heavy footsteps echoed past the corridor entrance. They pulled apart slowly. Eva smoothed her dress, avoiding his gaze, the phantom heat of his touch lingering. "That was adequate improvisation," she conceded stiffly. Liam ran a hand through his hair, the usual smirk absent. "Yeah," he said, his voice oddly flat. "Just part of the job, Wraith." But the look they shared held a flicker of something new, a spark of mutual recognition, a grudging respect forged in the friction of their forced proximity. The game had just become infinitely more complicated. The forced intimacy of the Aerie became a crucible. Days bled into a rhythm of calculated performance and unnerving proximity. Eva, Elena, and Leo, navigated the social labyrinth with a terrifying synchronicity that surprised them both. They learned each other's micro-expressions, the slight tightening around Eva's eyes when stressed, Liam's almost imperceptible finger tap when searching for an exit. They covered slips with seamless grace. Eva smoothly intercepting a misplaced comment about Baltic politics Liam fumbled. Liam charmingly deflecting Cross's probing question about Eva's fictional alma mater with a self-deprecating anecdote about his own less conventional education. The friction that had defined their initial encounters began to transmute. Their sharp banter, once purely antagonistic, now carried an undercurrent of dangerous flirtation. A debate over the ethics of neural augmentation during a fireside chat turned into a sparring match of wit, their eyes locking with a challenge that felt less like rivalry and more like invitation. Eva found herself reluctantly admiring Liam's ability to think 10 moves ahead in a social game, adapting his persona on the fly. Liam, in turn, grudgingly acknowledged the sheer brilliance of Eva's meticulous planning, the way she anticipated Cross's paranoid checks and Garrick's patrol patterns with uncanny accuracy. One evening, during a mandatory couples stargazing session on a chilly observation deck, Garrick materialized silently from the shadows, his gaze sweeping over them. Instinctively, Liam draped an arm around Eva's shoulders, pulling her close against the sea breeze. "Look, darling," he murmured, pointing vaguely upwards, his breath warm against her ear. "Orion's belt. Makes you think of that necklace I got you in Monaco." The cover was smooth, but the proximity was electric. Eva leaned into the touch, resting her head briefly against his shoulder, playing her part. "The diamonds were smaller," she replied softly, her voice catching slightly. Garrick lingered for a moment longer, then melted back into the darkness. They didn't pull apart immediately. The shared warmth, the manufactured intimacy, felt disturbingly comfortable. Eva's carefully constructed walls trembled. Later, seeking refuge in the ostentatious Vance suite after a grueling session of virtual reality team challenges, the tension snapped. Eva was reviewing security schematics on a disguised tablet, her brow furrowed. Garrick's patrol route shifted again. He's doubling back past the West Service elevator at 22:15 now. We need to adjust. Liam, pouring himself a finger of expensive scotch, cut her off. "Always the plan, Wraith. Ever just feel the moment?" He turned, leaning against the bar, the amber liquid catching the low light. "Like on the deck? You didn't flinch. Almost felt real." Eva met his gaze, her expression guarded but not hostile. It was real tradecraft, survival. But her pulse betrayed her. Liam took a step closer, his usual smirk absent, replaced by a searching intensity. "Was it?" He reached out, his thumb brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear, a gesture far more intimate than their scripted touches. Eva froze, 1,000 protocols screaming in her head, warring with a sudden, terrifying pull. His fingers traced the line of her jaw, featherlight. "What if?" he murmured, his voice low and rough. Just for a second, it wasn't tradecraft. The air crackled. Years of discipline warred with a raw, unexpected surge of desire. Eva's analytical mind short-circuited. Before she could process, before she could stop herself, she closed the infinitesimal distance. The kiss wasn't planned, wasn't tactical. It was fierce, hungry, a collision of suppressed tension and undeniable chemistry. Liam responded instantly, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her flush against him. The tablet clattered, forgotten to the plush carpet. For a heartbeat, the mission, the rivalry, the world outside vanished. There was only heat, the taste of scotch on his lips, the solid strength of him. Then reality slammed back. Eva tore herself away, stumbling back, her breath ragged, her hand flying to her lips as if burned. Horror warred with the lingering heat in her veins. Liam stared at her, his own breathing uneven, a storm of confusion and something akin to wonder in his hazel eyes. The silence stretched, thick with the echo of what they'd done. "Damn it," Eva whispered, the word sharp, laced with self-recrimination. "That was a critical error." Liam ran a hand through his hair, a shaky laugh escaping him. "Yeah, biggest intel breach yet." But his gaze held hers, stripped bare. The carefully constructed personas of Elena and Leo, Wraith and Chameleon, lay shattered around them. Something terrifyingly real had cracked through the facade. The kiss changed everything. Walls, meticulously maintained for years, developed fissures. Eva found herself sharing a sliver of her burden over lukewarm coffee in the compound's sleek cafeteria. "The op before this, in Kiev," she said, her voice low, eyes fixed on the swirling liquid. "I trusted an asset. They were compromised. 3 agents, gone." The guilt, usually a cold, hard stone in her chest, felt exposed. "I can't afford another mistake, not with stakes like Chimera." Liam, uncharacteristically quiet, stirred his own coffee. "My sister, Amelia," he said after a moment, the charm replaced by a raw vulnerability Eva hadn't seen before. "Rare genetic disorder. The treatments. Viridian pays well, but it's never enough. The debt's a monster." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Sometimes the only choices are bad ones, Wraith." The shared confession hung in the air, a fragile bridge across their professional divide. They were rivals, yes, but also 2 people trapped in the lonely, morally gray world of their profession. The understanding was terrifying in its intimacy. Professionally, they were closing in. Using their power couple access, they identified the location of Project Chimera, a sub-level biometric vault within Cross's heavily guarded private laboratory wing. They mapped the security layers, pressure-sensitive floors, thermal scanning drones, redundant laser grids, and Garrick's unpredictable, highly trained patrols. The plan solidified. Strike during the gala finale, a masquerade ball where security would be distracted monitoring guests and the elaborate entertainment. Eva's meticulous schematics merged with Liam's instinct for improvisation. They had the access codes Eva had painstakingly gathered, the timing down, the escape routes planned. The prize was within reach. The night before the gala, opportunity struck. Garrick cornered Leo, near the main atrium, grilling him about inconsistencies in their investment portfolio, a planted Viridian red herring designed to create a diversion. Eva seized the moment. Slipping away under the guise of fetching a forgotten wrap, she navigated the dimly lit corridors towards a known, less monitored service access point to the compound's internal servers, a potential goldmine for final security protocols. Bypassing a surprisingly lax door sensor, Garrick's distraction was effective. Eva slipped into the cold, humming server room. Rows of blinking towers cast eerie blue shadows. Her fingers flew over a disguised decryption device plugged into a terminal. Minutes ticked by, each one amplifying the risk. Finally, she accessed the comms logs, a tangled web of encrypted transmissions. Her initial focus was on Viridian Aegis channels and Cross's security chatter, but a fragmented, heavily obscured subchannel caught her eye. The encryption was different, military grade, but with a signature she recognized from a prior Interpol brief. Her blood ran cold. Using a backdoor algorithm she'd developed for Aegis counter-intel, she brute-forced the encryption. The decoded messages bloomed on her screen. Not Viridian, not Aegis. Communication between Liam Shaw and a handler identified only by the codename Janice. The content was a knife to the heart. Shaw. Package secured for transfer at Extraction Point Delta. Ensure payment is ready. Amelia's safety is paramount. Janice. Payment confirmed upon verification. Asset Vance will be neutralized. Frame evidence planted per protocol. Aegis takes the fall. Clean sweep assured. Shaw. Understood. Just get my sister out. Janus. Janus honors its agreements. The collective will reshape the world with Chimera. Cross is irrelevant after extraction. Proceed. Eva's world tilted. The air left her lungs. Liam wasn't just Viridian. He was a double agent for the Janus Collective, a shadowy syndicate known for arming warlords and destabilizing governments. He wasn't just stealing Chimera. He was selling it to the worst possible entity. And his plan? Hand it to Janus, then frame her and Aegis for the theft, leaving her to take the fall while he disappeared with his blood money. The kiss, the shared vulnerability, the fragile trust. It was all a lie. A calculated manipulation. The betrayal was absolute personal and professional annihilation. The tablet slipped from her numb fingers, clattering on the metal floor. The sound echoed like a death knell. She found him on their suite's private balcony, overlooking the churning, moonlit sea. He was leaning on the railing, seemingly lost in thought, the picture of Leo Vance at ease. Eva closed the glass door softly behind her, the noise of the gala preparations below a distant murmur. The cool night air did nothing to quell the firestorm raging inside her. Enjoying the view, Chameleon? Her voice was arctic, devoid of all warmth, all pretense. Liam turned, the charming mask instinctively sliding into place. Elena, just plotting our big win tomorrow. He stopped, seeing her face. The absolute lack of Elena, the raw, icy fury of Eva Rostova staring back at him. The mask faltered. I accessed the server logs, Eva stated, her words precise, lethal shards of glass. The Janus logs. All color drained from Liam's face. The charming facade didn't just drop, it shattered. His eyes widened, then narrowed, panic flickering for a split second before being replaced by a desperate, cold calculation. The transformation was chilling. The man she'd kissed, the man who'd spoken of his sister, vanished. The predator stood revealed. Eva, he began, his voice tight, low. Save it. She cut him off, stepping closer. Selling Chimera to Janus? Framing me? Neutralizing the asset? Was that kiss part of the cover too? Make the mark trust you before the knife goes in? The hurt bled through the fury, sharp and humiliating. Liam's jaw clenched, desperation warred with defiance in his eyes. Janus paid enough to save Amelia and secure our future. This tech, Cross is a fool, Eva. Aegis, Viridian, they're just different sides of the same corrupt coin. They'll weaponize it just like Janus will, just prettier packaging. At least this way, Amelia lives. You? He gestured sharply, his voice cracking with a raw edge. Collateral damage in a dirty game. I offered you a way out. Disappear with me. The money's more than enough. Your solution is selling doomsday tech to terrorists? Eva hissed, her voice trembling with rage and disbelief. Don't pretend your hands are clean, Wraith. Liam shot back, his own anger flaring, a defense against the guilt she saw flicker beneath the surface. You think Aegis is noble? I found their contingency plan. He pulled out a tiny data chip, holding it up like a poisonous gem. Buried deep in Viridian's counter-intel files. Once Chimera is secure, their orders are clear. Eliminate the Chameleon. Permanently. Make it look like Viridian infighting. Your precious agency was going to put a bullet in my head the second I handed you that drive. They're just as ruthless, just better dressed. He threw the chip onto a nearby table. It skittered, a tiny symbol of universal betrayal. So yeah, I made a deal with devils. To save my sister, to survive. The offer stands, Eva. Walk away with me, tonight. Before the gala, before Janus moves. We take the money, we vanish. We leave this whole filthy game behind. The revelation hit Eva like a physical blow. Aegis. Ordering Liam's termination? It was plausible, horrifyingly plausible. The betrayal wasn't just from the charming thief. It came from the very system she'd pledged her loyalty to, the structure she'd trusted. The ground beneath her crumbled. The personal betrayal, his lies, his manipulation, was devastating. But the institutional betrayal, the confirmation of the moral abyss she worked within, was paralyzing. She stared at Liam, at the desperate hope warring with the calculation in his eyes. The man who'd kissed her, who'd shared his deepest fear, who was now offering her a poisoned chalice of escape. The gala loomed tomorrow. Chimera waited, and every path forward seemed paved with betrayal. The gala was a grotesque parody of celebration. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light over swirling couples in elaborate masks, the air thick with expensive perfume, forced laughter, and the low thrum of orchestral strings. Desmond Cross, a skeletal king observing his court, stood apart, his eyes scanning the crowd with detached scrutiny. Garrick, a menacing shadow in a tailored tuxedo, prowled the periphery, his gaze constantly sweeping. Amidst the glittering throng, Elena and Leo Vance moved with practiced grace, their smiles brilliant masks hiding a chasm of betrayal. Every brush of Liam's hand against Eva's back as they danced sent a jolt of revulsion and unwanted awareness through her. His fingers, tracing the bare skin above her gown's low back during a slow waltz, felt like brands. His whispered pleasantries in her ear were laced with double meanings only they understood. "Ready for the main event, darling?" he murmured, his breath warm, his eyes hard as flint behind his silver mask. Eva's answering smile was glacial. "Always, Leo. Just remember the steps. The steps to mutual destruction," she thought. The stolen kiss, Liam's devastating revelations about Janice and Aegis, hung between them like a shroud. The strike window arrived. Precisely at 22:30, synchronized chaos erupted. Viridian assets triggered a localized power surge in the main ballroom, plunging it into momentary darkness punctuated by startled screams and flickering emergency lights. Simultaneously, Aegis operatives remotely hacked the perimeter drone network, sending several into a harmless, distracting spin cycle over the cliffs. Garrick's comms crackled with overlapping reports. He barked orders, his head snapping towards the ballroom disturbance. "Go!" Liam hissed, pulling Eva towards a service corridor disguised as a floral alcove. The passionate power couple act dissolved instantly, replaced by lethal efficiency born of desperation and deep, unwanted understanding. They moved like ghosts through the suddenly tense back corridors, bypassing pressure sensors Eva had meticulously mapped with laser pointers and counterpulses. Thermal drones patrolled above. They flattened against cold walls as the heat signatures passed, their breaths fogging in the chilly air. A laser grid shimmered across a junction. Eva fed it a looped feed from an earlier recording while Liam, with unnerving agility, contorted through the momentarily inert beams. Reaching the sub-level lab wing felt like breaching a tomb. Harsh white light replaced the gala's warmth. The air hummed with the sterile chill of advanced technology. Before them stood the vault, a seamless slab of reinforced polymer and chromed steel, guarded by a biometric palm scanner and retinal unit. Cross's personal sanctum. Eva stepped forward, pulling a thin latex glove from her clutch. Embedded within was a near-perfect replica of Cross's palm print, lifted days earlier from a discarded glass. She pressed it against the scanner. Green light. Next, a specialized contact lens, projecting a replicated retinal pattern onto the scanner beam. Another green light. The vault emitted a soft hydraulic hiss and slid open, revealing the softly glowing containment unit housing Project Chimera, sleek neural implants nestled in black foam. Liam reached in, his movements swift but careful. He secured the unit inside a shielded case. For a fraction of a second, their eyes met over the prize. Triumph warred with profound mistrust. The mission was half complete. Now came the extraction, and the inevitable double cross. Liam pulled a small, discreet device from his pocket, the Janus signal beacon. Eva's hand twitched towards her own concealed weapon, her heart hammering against her ribs. Was this it? Would he activate it now, summoning her executioners? He met her gaze, a silent question hanging in the charged air. Then, with a grimace that could have been resignation or calculation, he pressed the button. A single, silent pulse. The die was cast. The betrayal came, but not from the direction Eva expected. Instead of a discreet handoff, hell erupted. The distant thump of explosions vibrated through the floor. Alarms, different from the gala disturbance, deeper, more urgent, began to wail. Automatic gunfire chattered, shockingly loud, echoing down the sterile corridors. Screams, raw and terrified, replaced the gala's music. Liam's face paled. "That's not the extraction team," he muttered, drawing a compact pistol. Suddenly, black-clad figures swarmed the lab entrance, moving with brutal, military precision. Janus operatives. Their masks were featureless black, their weapons high caliber, their movements devoid of hesitation. They opened fire indiscriminately. Garrick and 2 of his security team, responding to the breach, were cut down in a hail of bullets before they could fully raise their weapons. Garrick took a round in the shoulder, spinning back behind cover with a roar of pain. Liam shoved Eva behind a heavy lab console as bullets sparked off the metal and shattered glassware. "They're sweeping the place," he yelled over the din, his voice tight with dawning horror. "Clean sweep. They were never going to pay. Amelia." The realization hit him like a physical blow, stripping away the last vestiges of the charming Chameleon. His eyes, wide with shock and fury, met Eva's. He saw Janus soldiers converging, their weapons trained on their position. He saw the utter annihilation of his desperate plan. And he saw Eva, the woman he'd betrayed and who'd seen through him, about to die because of his catastrophic error in judgment. A Janus soldier rounded the console, rifle raised. Time slowed. Liam didn't think. He moved. Throwing himself sideways, he tackled Eva to the floor as a burst of gunfire shredded the space where her head had been. They hit the ground hard, rolling behind a sturdier bank of servers. Bullets pinged off the metal casing above them. "Thanks," Eva gasped, the word ripped out of her, laced with shock and reluctant acknowledgement. "Don't mention it," Liam grunted, already returning fire, his shots precise, controlled panic. Seems Janus renegotiated the contract. Terms, termination of all parties. The cold calculation was back, but now it was directed at their common enemy. Survival instinct, sharp and primal, forged an instant, brutal alliance. Cornered, outgunned, with Garrick pinned down nearby and Cross likely already captured, Eva and Liam fought with the synchronicity of those who have danced on the edge of death together. Rivalry dissolved into desperate teamwork. Eva used her tablet, hacking into the lab's environmental controls. "Overload the coolant system on my mark," she shouted to Liam. "Ready! Mark!" She triggered the command. Pipes along the ceiling ruptured, spewing super-chilled vapor into the corridor. Janus soldiers cried out, momentarily blinded and disoriented by the freezing fog. "Now!" Liam yelled. They burst from cover, firing. Eva took down an operative struggling to clear his visor. Liam dropped another sighting on Garrick. They moved in a lethal dance, covering each other's advance, using the chaotic environment, toppling equipment, triggering emergency showers, exploiting the vapor's cover. Liam shoved Eva down as a grenade bounced towards them. She rolled and fired, hitting the thrower before he could duck. Liam took a grazing shot to the arm but barely flinched, his focus absolute. Seeing him fight for her, not against her, shifted something fundamental in Eva. This wasn't the Janus mercenary or the self-serving thief. This was the man whose instincts she'd grudgingly respected, fighting to survive together. They reached Garrick, who was bleeding heavily but still firing his sidearm. "Desmond! Cross!" he gasped, pain twisting his face. "Janus took him. West exit. They have the tech." Eva and Liam exchanged a look. Chimera in Janus' hands was unthinkable. Their agency's squabbles were meaningless dust compared to the global catastrophe that represented. "Stop the handoff," Eva stated, the mission parameters rewriting themselves in real time. "Agreed," Liam said, his voice rough. "Let's crash their party." The west exit opened onto a lower loading dock. Chaos reigned. Part of the compound was on fire, casting flickering orange light over the scene. A sleek, armored VTOL aircraft sat idling, its engines whining. Janus operatives were loading equipment, including the Chimera case. Desmond Cross, his face bloodied and filled with a terror that stripped away his usual detachment, was being forced towards the aircraft at gunpoint. Eva and Liam emerged from the smoke and shadows like avenging wraiths. They opened fire, targeting the operatives guarding Cross and the Chimera case. Surprise gave them a fleeting advantage. Janus soldiers scrambled for cover, returning fire. Bullets ricocheted off the dock's concrete and the aircraft's hull. Garrick, leaning heavily against a doorway, provided covering fire with his remaining strength. Liam charged towards the Chimera case, dropped near the aircraft's ramp. An operative lunged at him. They grappled, rolling dangerously close to the spinning engine intake. Eva sprinted towards Cross, dodging fire. She tackled the guard holding him, sending them both sprawling. Cross scrambled away, wide-eyed and gasping. Eva turned back towards Liam. He'd disarmed his opponent, but another Janus, heavy, clad in tactical armor, leveled a heavy rifle directly at him. Liam was exposed, struggling to rise. Eva didn't hesitate. She raised her pistol, a cool, detached focus settling over her. Breathe, aim, squeeze. The shot rang out, not at the heavy center mass, but at the vulnerable joint of his helmet visor. The man staggered, then collapsed. Liam met her eyes across the smoke-filled dock. A flicker of profound understanding passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the debt paid. He reached the Chimera case. But instead of grabbing it, he pulled a small device from his belt, a high-intensity EMP pulse grenade. He slammed it onto the case's locking mechanism and triggered it. A visible wave of energy pulsed outwards. The case's electronics fizzed and died. More importantly, the internal containment field holding the delicate neural implants failed with a sickening crackle. Smoke curled from the seams. "No!" screamed a Janus commander from the aircraft ramp. "The package! It's fried!" Liam yelled back, kicking the now useless case towards the burning debris near the dock edge. "Tell Janus they bought scrap!" The precious prototype data, the culmination of Cross's work, was irrevocably corrupted, partially destroyed. Enraged, the Janus commander opened fire indiscriminately. The VTOL's engines roared as it began a desperate, premature liftoff. Janus operatives still on the dock were cut down by their own commander's fire or abandoned. Cross was pulled roughly aboard at the last second. The aircraft banked violently, narrowly missing the cliff face, and vanished into the smoke-choked night sky. Silence, broken only by crackling flames and moans of the wounded, descended. Eva and Liam stood amidst the devastation, breathing heavily, weapons still raised. Garrick slumped against the doorway, clutching his shoulder, his gaze fixed on the departing aircraft with impotent fury. Liam's earpiece crackled. "Chameleon, report extraction status. Package secured?" It was his Viridian handler, voice tense. Before Liam could answer, Eva's own comm hissed. "Wraith, confirm package retrieval and eliminate secondary asset. Immediate extraction at Point Alpha." The Aegis handler's voice was cold, efficient. "Eliminate secondary asset," the confirmation of Liam's earlier claim. Aegis had indeed planned to kill him. Liam heard the order through Eva's comm. He gave a bitter, hollow laugh. "Hear that, Wraith? Told you." Eva stared at him, then at the burning compound, the bodies, the ruined Chimera case, the moral bankruptcy of both agencies laid bare. She keyed her mic, her voice stripped of all emotion. Operation Affection Gambit compromised. Janus collective intervention. Asset Cross captured. Primary package destroyed during hostile extraction. Secondary asset status unknown. Pursuit imminent. Extraction denied. She ripped the comm unit from her ear and crushed it under her heel. Liam followed suit, stomping his own device into the concrete. They found temporary refuge hours later in a dilapidated fishing shack miles down the coast, smelling of salt, seaweed, and neglect. The adrenaline had bled away, leaving bone-deep exhaustion and the raw sting of betrayal. Eva meticulously cleaned and bandaged the graze on Liam's arm, her touch clinical but not unkind. He sat slumped on a rickety chair, staring at his hands as if seeing blood that wasn't there. The charming facade was gone, replaced by a hollowed-out weariness and the crushing weight of his failure. Janice had Amelia. He'd destroyed the only leverage he had. He'd nearly gotten Eva killed. Eva leaned against the rough wooden wall, the encrypted data chip containing the fragmented Chimera schematics, salvaged during their escape, cool in her palm. The raw chemistry still simmered, a persistent undercurrent beneath layers of anger, hurt, and trauma. But something else was there now, forged in the crucible of survival against a common, monstrous enemy, a hard-won, wary respect. He'd saved her life, she'd saved his. They'd chosen each other over their masters. She looked at the chip. He looked at her. Trust was a shattered vase, impossible to fully piece back together. Yet, the fragments held a different shape now. Janice still has Cross, Eva stated, her voice flat but clear in the quiet shack. And enough of Chimera's core data from his lab to be dangerous. They'll rebuild it. Liam lifted his head. His hazel eyes, usually sparkling with mischief or calculation, were dark, haunted, but held a new, grim determination. The thrill-seeker was gone. The desperate brother remained, but now tempered by the searing knowledge of what his choices had wrought. He saw Eva, not just as the rival he'd betrayed or the woman he'd desired, but as the partner who'd fought beside him when everything burned. He offered a faint, weary echo of his old smirk, devoid of charm but full of a stark resolve. "Looks like the Vances have one more job, partner," he said. Eva held his gaze. A flicker of something, not forgiveness, not yet, but acceptance of the path ahead, crossed her face. She pocketed the chip. Without a word, she turned towards the shack's door, pushing it open onto the gray pre-dawn light. Liam pushed himself up from the chair, wincing slightly, and followed. They didn't hold hands. They didn't speak promises. They simply walked out of the shack, side by side, leaving the ruins of their old lives, their betrayals, and the burning wreckage of the Eyrie behind them. The rising sun painted the choppy sea in hues of blood and gold as they melted into the ragged coastline, two ghosts bound by fire, betrayal, and the uncertain, dangerous future they now chose to face together. Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.